You're listening to Love and Light with Dr. Lisa, Everyday Living in Peace. Day-to-day living can be difficult in our world today, and most people don't know how to live a peaceful, joy-filled existence. The key to this is simple: love. Join me, Dr. Lisa Collins, for the next hour as I unpack and identify the need for a peaceful, love-filled existence by engaging the challenging and hard topics of life. On this show, you will lean into the healing practices that enlarge your spiritual reality through the act of love. This kind of love begins with yourself and your neighbor and transcends age, race, sex, generation, class, and sexual identity. The world changes when we root ourselves in love. Love and Light with Dr. Lisa starts now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Lisa, and you're listening to Love and Light, every day, living every day in peace on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour and let us help you experience how to bring more love into your everyday life. Each second and fourth Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 12 Mountain, 4 Eastern, we will have tools for living every day in peace. So today's topic will be on my new book, Love and Light, A Guide to Peace and Oneness. And this book provides a step-by-step guidance to reclaim peace, tranquility, love, and connection. So Love and Light, a Guide to Peace and Oneness explores what life would be like if we led with love instead of judgment. It answers questions like, how have we allowed sexuality, politics, and skin color to divide us so much? And why is it so difficult to love each other as human beings? What would happen if we were to look at each other as if we were whole? And how can we control the darkness of our minds? This book is an enlightening gift to the world, and it helps you connect with yourself and with God. So we are going to look at how can we expand, boost self-awareness, and help ourselves and the ones we love. So as a soul in this world, I have the opportunity to engage with the world and all that is happening however I choose. This book is an anchor to ground myself through the challenges that are occurring in the world: racism, sexism, ableism, homophobia, transphobia, and more. The intent of this book is to send an oak leaf to the world for those who have no idea of what grace and love of a higher self, a higher power, and what I call God. So if you find yourself upset, emotional, feeling like you're on a roller coaster, and each day wondering, is this the end of times? This book is for you. Hang on and listen up. We're going to read from this book today. This is a gift to the world. And although it came through me, this show is not about that, not necessarily how it came through me. But if those who are curious about how I was able to write this book, this gift, and the process, please write me directly. The show today is about this book and the guidance that it so eloquently gives to us. So the first part is why this book? Well, let me read a little bit from the introduction. In this 21st century, it is difficult to connect spiritually. With technology and high-tech speed of the world today, people find themselves lost. The lack of community in a spiritual form is lacking, and people are doing whatever they can to connect to something. Desperate for spiritual connection, they seek out activities such as extreme sports, where people put their lives on the line in the name of sport, and antics like reality TV shows, in which people put their lives at stake to survive in the wilderness or stage a living arrangement or a romantic relationship. It is noticeable that the church has repelled society, as most people do not attend church or seek spiritual assistance there. The uptick in spirituality as a movement and yoga as a semi-spiritual practice in America demonstrates the yearning for something not of this world in society today. At the same time, it is apparent that that extremism of religiosity has captured people in such a way that it is harmful and fear-based, which is not of God. How did we get in such a place where we are repelled by one another and smite each other for such worldly reasons as sexuality, political thought, or skin color? The world is in need of peace and love, and that comes in the form of God. What is God? God is love. This is simple enough, and although it is written in the Bible, it does not transfer to practice. Why is it so difficult to love one another? It seems easy, but instead we seem to listen to the deep-seated voice that we are not one, we are separate, and therefore we need to fend for ourselves. Through this dynamic, everyone is othered. Think about your everyday life. When a person cuts you off in the car, on the freeway, or the street, do you slow down and let them go or curse them for their actions? Who has not acted this way? I know I have. How hard is it for us to surrender the space and be happy and grateful that we're not hurt? This world drives us to go inward and individuality and self, when God's words and wisdom ask us to be one with God and our brothers and sisters. So that's a couple of paragraphs out of the introduction. And this first part about why can't we connect to one another? Why can't we be there for each other? And I could tell you that my work in racial healing is where I first got a chance to see, why is it that we cannot connect? Why can't we treat each other as human beings? If you're hurt, I'm hurt, right? But that is not what I see in society. What I see is this individuality, mine, and more mine. What happened to we? What happened to the collectivism, the collective well-being of everyone? I find it's lost. And it's so true about traffic. When you cut in front of me, I'm in a competition with you. I don't want you to get in front of me. I know that I've been that way. But why would I not just bless the person who's going in front of me? I have no idea what's happening with them. Why is it always one person against another? And this is the name of this book, Love of Light. Lighten up. I just feel like the more things are happening in our world today, that I think it's just more and more chaotic. Every day it's something stressful. It's something that, oh my gosh, this has happened. Racism, ableism, sexism, women's bodies nowadays. Every day is something more, and it feels out of control. How do you tether? How do you tether to something? And I know that people used to go to church. That was a place that you would get healing and you would have other people to have community. Where are our communities today? So today, not only will I be reading some parts of the book and talking about them, I'm also going to answer questions that people have asked me. One of the questions was, what surprised you about this book or writing the book? And I'll answer that. What surprised me is the depth of connection to spirit with this book. This is my first book. I didn't expect to write this book, nor did I plan to write this book. And what came from this book, after I was writing, I would go back and look and read what was there. And I thought, wow, that is really powerful. So I think what surprised me is the book in itself, that it came to me and that I was able to write it down and to get it published. So that surprised me about the book. Another question was, what was one thing that was easy for you? And with that question came, what is one thing that was difficult or hard for you? Actually getting the book onto paper was one of the easiest things. When a book like this comes, it's a spiritual gift. And having it flow out into the paper was probably the easiest part. The hardest part is that this is my first published book. So I had no idea how it was going to get published or what publisher to use. This is actually published with Archway Publishing, self-publishing. So that was a little more difficult. And during COVID, things were delayed. So that was a little harder to really wait, just to be patient. Back to the introduction. So we all are not getting along. We can look at our news every day and see that we're not necessarily loving one another. And I feel like we have one job, to love each other, but we can't really seem to do that. It seems to always be some kind of person against someone else, one group against another group, one country against another country. And all these things feel so big. And this book, Love of Light, it really drills down to love. Dr. King talked about love explicitly. He talked about love a lot in his 6 principles against nonviolence, for nonviolence. But what we're having instead is that we have fear. We're afraid of what's going to happen. We're afraid of not being taken care of. And when we're leaning into a vibration of fear, it doesn't yield anything good for us. It doesn't help us to be our best selves. So what would happen if we leaned into love instead? What would happen? And I could tell you, there's a couple people who pulled in front of me today. And when they pulled in front of me, I let them go. I didn't have any energy around it because I'm not in competition with them. I want them to be well. What would happen if all of us could get to that place? We would have a different world. If we all wanted everyone else to be well, if we all wanted just the best for even those, Dr. King says, even though we don't hate our enemy, we don't hate our oppressor, that we want to transform all energy into good energy, that could change the world, like literally change the world. What if you had a place to go and a person to talk to? I mean, that would be amazing, absolutely amazing, that you could be accepted wherever you are, whatever walk of journey of life. I think that's the way the world is supposed to be. We're coming up on our first break. You're listening to Love and Light with me, Dr. Lisa, and we are reading and discussing and answering questions about my new book, Love of Light, A Guide to Peace and Oneness. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on Love and Light, Living Every Day in Peace with me, Dr. Lisa. If you'd like to contact me, you can reach out to Twitter and find me through through Engage, Instagram, LisaC_healing, and my website, educationthroughengagement.com. We were talking about my new book, Love of Light, Living Every Day. Love of Light, A Guide to Peace and Oneness. And I was reading some of the introduction, and I'm going to pick off where I left off and read a little bit. And we were talking about like leading with love instead of falling and drilling and falling down into fear. So I was just reading about how hard it is for us to surrender the space and be happy for traffic. And this world drives us to go inward toward individuality and self, when God's words and wisdom ask us to be one with God and our brothers and sisters. The change needed will be a drastic one in which people are intentionally moving from the fortress of self, bunkers and protection, to love and inclusivity, starting with prayer for others. The first step is to pray for others, all others, and not in the way which is known today. Prayer is silent, without words, connecting to God and allowing God to speak to you. In this silent time, pray for others and feel that connection and warmth for your own healing. Send good thoughts for other people. Do not judge them. Try to control the solution for them or pity them. Simply send good thoughts their way. What a concept to send good thoughts toward people all the time. Why, that sounds like that's something that I can do. And things that are written here are things that I do. But what would happen if all of us, like everything that's happening right now around women's rights and their bodies, there's lots of attacks on both sides. But what if a huge group of people decided to send healing toward people who you didn't agree with instead of hatred? That could change something. And the idea that we're doomed is not really a high vibration idea. So think about this. Look at all others as if they were whole. What a concept. What would happen if we examine all if they were whole? The warmth, the love we had for them would be present because they are nothing more. There's no need to understand everything that happens. That's not our place. Our place is to love, become one with God, and seek not to let our minds and egos control us. And I could hear people saying, well, how about George Floyd? How about all these deaths? How about the things that are happening? What are we supposed to do? And I think that there's a part of me that really wants to fight and send negative thoughts and hateful thoughts about people. And I have gotten to this place where it is not helpful. I wish that would change things and make things better, but it doesn't seem to. This goes on to say, A Course of Miracles, which was written in 1977, was given to our world long ago. It describes and teaches solid ways of being that lead to enlightenment. Many cults of our centuries show us that we are seeking that special place where we are enlightened, and we are looking for a person to lead us. Well, we are the person. There's no one who's going to come and all of a sudden there's going to be this magical thing that happens. But if each one of us led with our higher self, treated people as if they were whole, didn't hate our oppressors, but looked to transform that energy to love, what would our world look like? We are the person. Enlightenment begins with us individually. The Course tells us that we must deal with our minds. Think about the psychology of today. People are seeking self-care, self-esteem, self-regulation, which together translates into some form of peace. Peace is found through oneness with God. And all the psychology books in the world will not bring the peace the world is seeking. The more we drill into ourselves, the more harm is committed to ourselves and others. It has to be this way. We cannot take care of ourselves fully by putting others aside. A huge right or left turn will need to occur for most people to feel, hear, and answer God's call of oneness. What should we do? The first thing we should do is pray. And in this very small book, it's not very big, is a section of prayers. And in this section of prayers, there's prayers that I've found all over. There are Native American prayers. There are prayers from whatever called to me. There's a prayer here from Father Michael Judge, who died in 9/11. A very short prayer, very powerful prayer. There are all kinds of prayers. There's some quotes from the Bible. There's from Desmond Tutu's African prayer book. There's so many different things over so many different kinds of feels that there's something for everyone. In the front of the prayer section, there are prayers that I wrote, and I'm going to read those and see if they resonate with you. If any one line. So a prayer, and as described, is sitting quiet and calming your mind. And these prayers in the book are for after you get to this part of the book, and after you've been able to sit quiet for a little bit, here are some prayers of inspiration that you can use. And so here's one of the prayers. Greatest light among the world, wind of love and comfort, hear my prayer and calling to be closer to you in every way, every day. Make me like the eagle that flies and carry me in the comfort of your arms and love. And as I wander in the way you would have me, in your eyes and in your walk, ground me like the great trees, flowers, and earth. Bring me peace and kindness to all and graciousness, just as you do for me. Allow me to touch the oneness of the earth and let my spirit fly like the wind. That is the first prayer in the prayer section. And I wrote that. I kind of stopped there for a minute going, wow, that was beautiful. Here's another prayer. And if these prayers speak to you, anything could be a prayer. A prayer does not have to be sitting. A prayer could be walking, anything. But I think really what I'm calling for in this book is that we have to have some kind of connection to ground us to something. And there is a section I will read later for those who don't believe in God. You don't have to believe to take actions to sit and pray, but God believes in you and God loves you. It doesn't have to be. And for all, this is not a religious book for any kind of religion. It speaks across all people and all practices. Dearest and most precious light, I thank you for my rising and slumber. O precious mother, hold me in your grasp as I wallow on this earth. Let me see your ever bright love, light of love, hope and comfort. And everyone I see and those whose lives I touch, allow me to be one with you. Here's another one. The love of one another is that I seek. O light of light, love of love, show me the way of oneness with those who love me and those who smite me. Be it my love of you in me that revels in the heights of bliss as I become one in love and light in your name. Here's another one. Mother God, in the presence of your will, continue to provide love and light in my heart. Help me to set aside my needs as I continue to push for more love among those who hate me. I love them with more passion every day. And as it is through my love of you in me that I transcend to oneness within this world. Here's another one. Father God, in your name, I pray on the light of all light and the intense love of the pure light to bless each and every one in the spirit world and the earth plane. Let the radiant flow of abundance and a loving spirit overturn the wrath of evil. It is love at the deepest level that holds us all, and only love will save us all from the torment of ourselves. Light of light, love of love, enter me right now. I have a few more. This is another one. Rise up and sing the song of gratefulness, and as you know where your strength comes from, the goodness of each of us is within. Rise up and sing the song of gratefulness. Praise the goodness of your heart. Love the plentifulness of your existence, for this love is your nourishment and salvation. Here's another one. Turn toward love, turn toward love, turn toward care, turn toward the depth of love God has for you. See the love in your life, see the love in your existence, turn toward love. And lastly, it is not what you think, this walk of life. Take time to see what you cannot see. Take time to love what you have not loved. Take time to breathe in the love and light of it all. I think just reading the prayers or reading these verses can bring solace. And love is unconditional, and it's something we sure could use a lot more of. Well, it's time for a break. Thank you for allowing me to read those prayers. I definitely, I can feel each and every one of them. You are listening to Dr. Lisa, Love and Light, Living Every Day in Peace. And when we come back, we're going to continue to talk about my new book and read excerpts from it. We'll be right back. Stay with us. We are back. You are listening to Love and Light with me, Dr. Lisa, and we are reading excerpts from my new book, Love of Light, A Guide to Peace and Oneness. And I have gotten some feedback from the book so far. And one person said, see if I can pull it up here. They said that the book, they feel like the book is a love letter to the world. Another person said that they feel like the book was amazing, and that the prayer section, they had a favorite prayer in the prayer section. So I have gotten some feedback that people are feeling, and I think the book is available for people who can hear. Those who can hear and feel and want to ground from like the insanity of the world, this is a book for you. It really does. It really does ground. And so I had in the last section, the first section, I talked about like the why is the need for the book, and how I call it the swirl of the world, and the swirl of the insanity of everything that's happening feels really overwhelming. It feels overwhelming in your body. It feels overwhelming in your spirit. And we know like the analytical part of our mind is our thinking. And we know our gut is like our stomach, like, you know, how we feel, and whether or not we listen to how we feel or not is one thing. But in between is our heart. And our heart is to connect our head and our gut. And I feel like I have been, and what I see around me are people are disconnected. They're disconnected from themselves. And that disconnection leads to discord and disarray, and feelings and swirling, and we're not connected. And one way to be connected is through prayer. In the last section, I read some of the prayers that I wrote, some of the prayers that I wrote for this book. But I'm going to read a little bit more about the book, like why, you know, a little bit more about prayer and what we can do to feel calmer in this world. The first thing to do is to pray. As mentioned earlier, prayer has developed into ways which one sits and reads or repeats phrases. The act of contemplative prayer has gone by the wayside, and our brother Richard Rohr has made a lifetime practice of assisting people to connection and oneness with God. His work is pleasing and necessary. He has touched many people, and some have been enlightened. Other brothers, Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama, have forged forward as examples, displaying love and oneness with God. Both of these spiritual leaders participate in prayer, as mentioned earlier, every day for many hours. That upper room with God is a precious one, and we are fooled if we think we are surviving spiritually without this great comfort. The second thing we must do is control the darkness of our minds. Judgment, our terrible friend, has to be put to rest. This is the basic and first protection we must be rid of in our life on earth. The Bible is very clear on judgment. Judge ye not. Matthew 7:1. Yet our world is based on and engulfed in judgment and judgmental practices, as media, entertainment are a way of being. It is normal to assess people's characters, clothes, lives, and family. It is so normed in this world that we have entire institutions for judging others: newspapers, magazines, television shows, etc. School attendance, workplace relations, and even employment in the church are based on judgment criteria and a long list of things that basically fall into people's perception. So if we were to use prayer, I mean, I'm going to talk about judgment in the next part, but if we were to use prayer as a way to calm ourselves, and we know that yoga and meditation are all huge practices, but what if we were to use prayer for ourselves, and we were able to center that prayer just at each individual? Instead of lashing out or talking badly about people, we were able to calm ourselves every day. That we did 10 minutes if we sat down, maybe starting with 3 minutes or 2 minutes, and just quieted our mind. You control your mind. Your mind doesn't control you. Think about that. If you were able just to sit and be still, put all the cares and worries of the world aside, because it does sometimes feel like, what's going to happen now? It feels absolutely out of control. And if you felt like and I've had people say to me, do you think this is the end of time? Do you think it's all over? If we feel like that, we need to do something. Should we continue on? Take more medication? Do more self-medicating? What if we just stopped and paused for a minute and just were quiet? Another recommendation in the book is, okay, connect to nature. We know nature feels so good to be in nature. That's a form of prayer, connecting to nature. But one thing that we can do is we can try. What are we doing now? Can't be any worse than what's happening right now, right? People not liking each other, people attacking each other, no one there for any of the people. I was listening to I was on a meeting a couple weeks ago, and there's a group here that is providing care for people who are without homes. And the way they're doing it is so loving, so kind. I think there's a lot of room to grow. I think there's a lot of room to grow. And I just want to say, although the Bible is mentioned here, the Bible is not mentioned here in a way. This book is not a Christian-centered book, although it uses parts of the Bible. And so I'm going to read another little part here, talking about the altruistic, all the things that we're doing in the world to help people. God is pleased with the altruistic actions of feeding the hungry, clothing the children, and caring for the sick. This is all within the words that have been left here for us to read and study. Yet the spirit has been neglected in these centuries since the Bible, which has humankind's hands all over it since it was written. It is good to use a Bible as a resource, but where is the connection to God in spirit? We have truly let the words and humankind's interpretation rule our understanding of the Bible and our actions based on it. People are ostracized, hated, and othered because of words in the Bible. This displeases God and has to come to an end. It is not for us to understand everyone's existence, whether they are transgendered, questioning, or fluid. What is important is that all people, no matter who they are, will have to connect spiritually through prayer if they are seeking oneness with God. Prayer has been lost in today's world. Big words are thrown around among us, and little time is spent in the upper room of our consciousness with a higher power. For those who read this book and who want to be held in the arms of your Creator, please read on. I will assist you and hopefully those who come in contact with you along the journey. Are verbal prayers useless? No. That is not what's being written here. Some of the most beautiful poems for God have been written throughout time. Those poems of love come from silent communion with our Lord. But in our world, those words, poems, and sayings have replaced what is supposed to be time spent with God. Humankind's words have morphed into workshops on prosperity, marriage, and child rearing instead of the oneness that we all need to connect to a higher being and to our higher selves and bring ourselves out of suffering. What steps are needed to begin? Simply, one needs to make time for God every day. This is quite a simple suggestion in the midst of our daily hurried schedules, but it is necessary to make a connection. We have forgotten who we are. No matter what you believe, whether you are an atheist or an agnostic, a Jew or a Christian, you have to stop and spend time with God. It is quite simple. It is the first part of making a connection. We make many excuses for not having the time or space, but we must make the time and spend it quietly without words. We have experienced crumbs along the way. The book Fervent speaks of praying fervently about issues in a marriage. The word fervent means having or displaying a passionate intensity. This passion is needed when we take time out of every day for prayer. One does not need words, a scripture, or a special reading. Prayer is accessible to all people everywhere. And I believe that if more of us were very intentional about how we spent our time in contemplation, Richard Rohr calls it. This is one book. There are many, many different ways to connect, but I think the thing is like, make an attempt to connect. Make an attempt to connect to your higher self. You could call it God. Just think about it. If you were your absolute best self, what would that be? If you were like incredibly your best self, what would that look like? And how would that be different? And if you were flying around every day doing what was on your list? Think about that. Couldn't we all lean in a little bit to be our best selves and just kind of sit quiet with us? Something to think about. It's time for a break. We will be right back. You're listening to Love and Light with Dr. Lisa, and I'm talking about my new book, Love of Light, A Guide to Peace and Oneness. We'll be right back. We are back. We're back on Love and Light with me, Dr. Lisa, and today we're reading excerpts from my new book, Love of Light, A Guide to Peace and Oneness. If you're looking to connect with me, you can connect with me on Twitter, Ed through Engage, Instagram, Lisa C_healing, and my website, educationthroughengagement.com. So far we've talked about the why for this book. Why do we need a book? Like the world is swirling and things feel crazy. And so we're very individualized and not really connected to our community or to people who may even be our neighbor. And we talked about prayer being a way to calm and settle and connect to our higher selves. Not necessarily whether we believe in God or not, but just to sit and have that peace and connect our mind and our heart and our gut together. Then we took some time and read some prayers that I wrote for the book. And that last little bit, we talked about prayer as one of the things that we need. But the other thing that we need after we're able to sit and calm ourselves and feel the warmth of our higher selves, it's a lack of judgment. And judgment is a tough one. It is such a way of being that it is really, really difficult to break away from. And so I'm going to read a little bit here about judgment in the book. And and there's a subtopic, judgment. You will find it very easily. Our next topic is judgment. A lot can be written about judgment, but especially in this day and age, judgment has taken a new leaf. The definition of judgment is the taking stock of another person's actions, life, etc., and making comments, thoughts, and assumptions about the person, place, or thing. Basically, judgment is making any kind of assumption about a person, place, or thing and stating an opinion, which is usually negative. It would be wonderful if people were making positive statements about their neighbors, but that is not the case. On a regular basis, negative, hurtful messages are thought, said, printed, projected on media, and even communicated in a person's face in the name of entertainment. This rise of judgment at the entertainment level, social media level, and day-to-day level has gotten to a point of self-destruction. Why is it natural to judge your brother and sister at the drop of a hat? This behavior has to stop and be immediately curbed. To prevent judgment, we need to love ourselves. The thing about judgment is that when you judge another person, you are projecting and judging yourself. The scripture says, "Judge ye not, O man." It's not about an old man. It is saying, stop hurting yourself. Stop tearing your flesh, which is a definition of sarcasm, which is a form of judgment. Why would we want to tear our own flesh? Let's face it, we would not. Yet sarcasm is very popular. It is so popular, the very act is projected on children's programming at such a high rate that it is not mentioned or curbed. The act of judgment has sent our spiritual growth into a new low. When every form of communication is grounded in something as hurtful as sarcasm and judgment, we are missing the mark by a large margin. This is not just a fad or something that will pass. Unfortunately, it has taken root in our society. What can we do about it? The solution stems from the individual level. Hence, this book is being sent to the world as a tool to notice and intervene. Judgment is a tough one. And I started working on judgment years and years and years ago. And when I first started working on judgment, I pulled up to a stoplight. Someone walked across the street and I didn't say anything. I was in the car by myself, but I started thinking and critiquing their clothes. And I thought, oh, wait a minute. Not only am I working on judgment that I say, I'm working on judgment that I think. Try it. Try to go 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Try to go a day without thinking a judgmental thought or saying a judgmental thing. And if we make it even further, or consuming judgment from social media or entertainment. Would you make it a day? So this is what the book says. First, stop and pay attention to the judgment in your life. That's what I did. I will break this up into several working categories. The first category is what you think. Are you thinking judging thoughts? Oh my gosh, what kind of dress is that? What kind of hat is that? What kind of outfit is that? Where did you get that? Did you gain weight? Did you lose weight? Why are you wearing that color? Like any of those running thoughts. He's too tall. He's too short. He's too fat. He's too this. Their judgment. Their judgment. So you are what you think. You are what you think, and you think what you do. The first assessment is to go throughout your day and notice if you are creating judgment thought about anything, including yourself. Think about this, including yourself. Are you judging anything, including yourself? And what do we say? How do we stop? By loving ourselves. I don't think I'm asking for something huge here. To care and love yourself. To care about other people and not to judge yourself. This is a wide open field. For the first assessment is to go through your day and notice if you are creating judgment about anything, including yourself. This is a wide open field. Think about it. Are you judging anything? For example, you are driving and the person in the car next to you is grooming, or pick any of the following: shaving, picking their nose, putting on makeup, reading, texting, or watching a video on their phone. What is the first thing that pops into your head? What the heck, right? Then comes the heavy outpouring of judgment. What is wrong with them? Stop there. That is where you need to stop the thinking train. Pause. This is going to be a difficult thing to do. Stop there. Why are you judging them? Are you afraid you're going to get hurt by their lack of attention to the road? If that is true, Why not a prayer of protection for them and you? Why the attack? The attack has come so instantaneously that there is no pause time or even a section of grace that can enter. This has to change. First, be willing to look at this issue. Then notice how many times a day you are participating in judgment, originating judgment, or allowing judgment messages to freely come within your personal being. The answers will be alarming. Judgment is difficult. It's a tough one. Consider it. Consider it. And if you're serious, get the book. Get the book and follow the guide. The guides are very, very simple. Very little thin book, simple guides. Follow the guides on judgment and try it. I can tell you, for me, I feel free because I'm not filling my head full of the things that harm people and harm myself. Because when I'm judging you, I'm judging me. And then the other thing to think about is the day-to-day, what we're consuming in the media. What are we consuming? Just think about, like, if you are what you eat, you are what you see. So the day-to-day happenings in the world can be hard to avoid. The very things that are being addressed are predators of more confusion. And this little part right here is about social media, television, and movies. Children books and movies. There's a section here on it. But this ties into judgment. This may be the same category as entertainment, but what you think is connected to what you do, and what today's people think is associated with entertainment and media. So it's very difficult to pray, love, and create community when today's entertainment is telling you otherwise. I think that the lack of prudence, attention, or care that goes into our bodies and psyches is most troubling and concerning. When was the last time you turned away from or paused from some kind of media or entertainment? This is not for me. I do not like the theme of what is going on here. This is so dark. I do not want to subject my senses to it. I would guess not lately. At this time, we seem to digest sick images, words, and themes constantly and question nothing. It comes across the screen or it comes across the airwaves, and we just seem to eat it. We never turn away from it. The saddest thing is we also project the same images into our innocent children. Children are pure and void of the world when they are taken to movies as infants. It is time to think about what we're doing to our children. What images are we putting into their minds at young ages? Children are attending movies as early as 1, 2, and 3. Most times, the parent or caretaker has not seen the movie or read about its theme. Today, many films and TV shows have adult themes and messages in them. What we allow these messages to go into the lives of our children. And I feel very strongly about this. Think about what social media phenomenon that you're digesting, and think about pausing. Thank you. My time is up. I've been so grateful that you are here listening to my new book. We just talked about social media and entertainment. If you'd like to contact me, you can go to my website. You can get the book on Archway Publishing. I hope all who can hear and need this gift will seek out my new book as a resource for more peaceful existence. I want all of you to treat yourself like you're your best friend. And please join me next time on Love and Light with me, Dr. Lisa. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Love and Light with me, Dr. Lisa, Everyday Living in Peace. You spent the last hour engaging in challenging and transformational conversations, all for the purpose of living a peaceful, joy-filled existence. Join me next time to continue growing in love and light through healing practices and acts of love. To learn more or work with me, Dr. Lisa, visit educationthroughengagement.com. That's educationthroughengagement.com. Remember, the world changes when we change by coming home to love. Tune in every second and fourth Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, here on transformationtalkradio.com.